let's start at square one. What is leather? Now, contrary to popular belief, leather is not just the skin of a dead animal. Leather is the product we're left with after the animal's skin has gone through a tanning process. Once an animal has died, the skin becomes a waste product that could either be left to decompose or repurposed into something useful. Now, taking an animal's skin and tanning it produces leather, which can be used for a variety of things. Now, here's a very rough drawing that I whipped up showing a cross-section of skin. Prior to tanning, the hair is removed from the top. This is often called liming, and the flesh layer is removed from the underneath, also known as fleshing. Now, what's left is that middle layer called the corium, and after the tanning process, this is the part that becomes leather. The tanning process involves introducing a skin into a solution and soaking it in pits or drums. Now, this process can be pretty complex, and each tannery has slight variations of their own. The tanning process could be a whole course in and of itself, so we won't get into the nitty-gritty details, but it's important for you to understand the main tannage types and their basic differences. Now, you may have heard of brain tanned, rose tanned, or loom tanned leather. Now, while these types of tanning do exist, nowadays they're pretty rare. And currently, the two primary tanning methods are vegetable tanning and chrome tanning. Most all of the leathers that you'll come across will fall into these two tannage types, and that's what we'll focus on in this course. Vegetable tanning is commonly referred to as veg tanning or veg tan for short. The vegetable tanning process utilizes natural elements such as twigs, tree bark, leaves to create leather. Now, this tannage type can be lengthy, as it may take several months or even longer to tan a hide. Vegetable tanned leathers are usually not dyed during the process. It's more common to see veg tan hides undyed. So what does that mean? How do they look? Well, undyed natural vegetable tan hides have a beigey cream color similar to this. And this is what they'll look like when you get them. Now, the second most common tannage type is chrome tanning. And this process utilizes solution of chromium salts and other chemicals to create leather. Chrome tanning is usually much faster than vegetable tanning and can be done in a few hours or days. Chrome tan leathers are often dyed during the tanning process. As a result, their color is usually in place when you get them. Now, here are some examples of chrome tan hides just purchased from a leather vendor. The color you see on each of these hides is the color the tannery chose to dye them. The tannery also applied a finish coat to set the dye. Now, this is common with chrome tan leather, and once a finish coat is applied, you cannot adjust the color. What you get is what you get. Now, another thing to look for with chrome tan leather is how far the dye has penetrated. During the chrome tanning process, there's a point where chromium solution turns the hides like a whitish blue color, called wet blue. Then the hides are dyed. There are various dyeing techniques, and some tanneries make shortcuts in the process and just let the dye soak in enough just to cover the top and the bottom. If the dye doesn't penetrate the entire hide, the middle retains that wet blue color. See here how the center is still whitish while the top and the bottom is dyed? Now, this can often be difficult to detect on some hides, and you may not actually be able to tell until you cut into the leather. The mark of a higher quality chrome tan leather is one where the dye has penetrated all the way through the leather. See how the color is consistent here through the entire hide? No wet blue showing here. If you happen to scratch the top of this leather, it will be the same color underneath. Now, here's a top and bottom comparison of the two. This may or may not matter to you, but just be aware of what the differences are. During the tanning process, the hides are often stretched and hung up to dry. The tannery typically uses clips to hang the leather. Now, these clips often leave marks along the edges of the hide. If you see these clip marks on the edge of your hide, don't worry, they're totally normal and they won't affect the structure or integrity of the leather. Now that you're familiar with the tannage types, let's take a look at some characteristics of each. You may consider these pros or cons depending on your needs. Vegetable tan leathers tend to be more firm and inflexible when compared to their chrome tan leather counterparts. Chrome tan leathers generally are more supple to the touch compared to the veg tan, especially if the chrome tan leathers had waxes and oils added to them during the tanning process. Now, the salt used in some chrome tanning processes can react with consistent exposure to metal. So, chrome tan leather is not recommended if you're making gun holsters or knife sheaths. Now, since vegetable tanning typically comes from tannery undyed, you'll have to hand dye each piece if you want any color other than a natural tone. Now, this process can be pretty time consuming and it will require more materials and labor on your part compared to purchasing a chrome tan leather that's already dyed. However, on the flip side, the advantage of dyeing your own leather is that you have more control over the color and can customize the outcome to your desired look. Vegetable tan leather can be used to stamp letters or images into the leather or carve images into the leather. This is also known as tooling. Now, because of this, you may hear vegetable tan leather also referred to as tooling leather. Now, you cannot stamp or tool on chrome tan leather. Some people may attempt and try to stamp on chrome tan leather, but the text and the impression won't last very long. I get a ton of questions about this, so let's clarify something. Stamping and tooling are not the same as branding. Stamping and tooling is a cold application process which leaves the desired impression in the leather by cutting it or pounding it into the leather with a mallet. Here are a few of the many pre-made stamps that you can purchase to create images such as these onto your leather. But they can only be used with vegetable tan leather. In contrast, branding is an extremely hot application process that leaves the desired impression by burning it into the top layer of the leather. Only vegetable tan leather can be stamped and tooled. However, both vegetable tanned and chrome tan leather can be branded. Now, let's take a look at a few examples. This is a chrome tanned leather with branded initials. And here is a vegetable tan leather that's been hand dyed and has stamped letters. And this is a natural, undyed piece of veg tan leather with a tooled image. Now, if you desire to tool or stamp text or images onto your leather, keep in mind the pros and cons of each tannage type with respect to this feature. Again, these differences don't make a specific leather better or worse. Rather, you need to determine, based on these characteristics, which tannage type best fits your needs. Now, you'll meet some people who work only with vegetable tan leather and others who work only with chrome tan leathers. I work with both, and I promise you, there is not one leather that's perfect for all projects. Say it with me. There is not one leather perfect for all projects. However, by understanding the basic differences between the various leathers, the pros and cons of each, you can make an informed decision as to which type of leather is best for you. Now, if you haven't already, I want you to print out the cheat sheet. You'll find it below this lesson. As we move through each lesson, you'll use that cheat sheet to complete your leatherwork assignment. Now, think of an item you'd like to make out of leather. Keep that in mind as we work through the cheat sheet items. The type of leather you decide will best fit this item may not be the best fit for future projects. Or you may decide that your project will require multiple types of leather, and that's okay. Now, let's tackle your first leatherwork assignment. Think about your project and decide if chrome tanned or vegetable tan leather works best for you. Document that on your cheat sheet, then move on to lesson 2 of this module.